Board of Education meeting. Can we all please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance and have our student lead us? Okay. Before we move on, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for some members of our district community that we've lost over the last couple of weeks. Mrs. Kathleen Connolly passed away on March 26th of this year. Mrs. Connolly was elected to the Board of Education for 2 terms, beginning back in 1977. We also lost Charlie Pensarosa, who passed away on April 7th. Mr. Pensarosa was a substitute custodian from 2011 until the fall of 2025. And he also, in addition to being a substitute custodian, he also substituted in our security team as well. And Mr. Jerry Belair passed away on April 12th. Mr. Belair was hired as the Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction here in Southington back in 2003. He resigned that position that same year, and he resigned because he accepted the position of superintendent in the town of Weston. So if we could please have a moment of silence for those 3 that we lost. Thank you very much. All right, we're going to start our evening this evening with 3 celebrations of excellence, and I'll ask Mr. Medancy.
Thank you, Mr. Oshana. We have a great start to our meeting this evening. It's always wonderful to start with celebrations and recognizing all the positive going on in the district. We'll call them up each as individual groups, and you can present them their celebration certificates. Our first one is for the American Legion High School Oratorical Contest winner, Devin Jasulovich. Is Devin here to see? Okay. And I thought there was a potential that somebody from the Legion was going to be able to join us to mention it tonight, but he may not have made it, but I could speak to it. Devin, come on up to the podium with our chair. Is it Jasulovich or Jasulovic?
Jay Slavic.
Jay Slavic, okay, I wasn't.
Nobody gets it right.
So that's all right. Well, thank you, Devin. So the oratorical competition, for those of you who don't know, it's sponsored annually by our American Legion, and it's a competition where students are asked to engage in public speaking. Do you remember the topics you were asked to speak about at the initial one?
There is a prepared speech, which is on anything related to the Constitution, and there is a momentary speech where we were given, from the selections, there was Article 4, Section 4, I want to say Article 6, Clause 3, the 9th Amendment, and in all honesty, I'm forgetting the last one.
Yeah, and for other than the prepared speech, those are given to you at the competition, and you have to be prepared to speak to them based on what you know about each of them. Is that correct?
Yes, you are given 5 minutes with a piece of paper and a pencil and whatever you're supposed to speak on in front of you.
So it's an impressive accomplishment, not only in terms of knowing the Constitution, but then being prepared to speak so passionately about it publicly in front of folks for the first time with little preparation. And so congratulations to you, Devin, and we want to recognize your accomplishment for winning the Southington High School competition this year, and Mr. Oshana has some acknowledgement for you as well.
Congratulations. Thank you. So my name is Zaya Oshana, right? So no one gets it right, so I know your pain. I feel it. So Devin, this is interesting. I mean, I don't know if you really got out how difficult this competition actually is, right? You have one prepared speech, but then you have 5 minutes to sit down and create another one.
5.
That's difficult at any point, but you're under pressure. It's a competition, so that's a thing you should be very, very proud of, being able to sit down and put your thoughts together and put them together on such an important subject as the Constitution and what is the backbone of our country. So thank you very much. And we'd like to, the board would like to present you a certificate of excellence, Devin. Having duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Southington Public Schools, we're hereby awarded this certificate of excellence for the 2026 Oratorical Contest winner. In witness whereof, the seal of the Southington Board of Education and the signatures of the Board of Education Chairperson and the Superintendent of Schools hereby affix this 16th day of April 2026. Congratulations to you. I think you should be very proud of yourself.
Congratulations, Devin.
Would you like to say a couple words? Sure. I'd like to. Since you're a speaker and you're prepared, come on up and say
Give him a topic.
I would just like to thank everyone in attendance here tonight. I would like to thank the Board of Education, my teachers at Southington High School for supporting me every step of the way, and the members of the American Legion for supporting me at the competitions in between them as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Devin. Okay, and for our next celebration this evening, we are going to be recognizing many of our 2026 Kid Governor candidates. And to do that, I'm going to invite Mrs. Stephanie Lawler, a quarter of English Language Arts and Social Studies.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome, everyone. So as part of our social studies curriculum, all fifth grade students participate in the Connecticut Kid Governor program. They learn about state government, elections, civic responsibility, and as part of that experience, students have the opportunity to run for Kid Governor, and those students are elected by their classmates and their peers, so that's a real honor to be selected by their peers from their own school. So I'd like to take a moment and let's recognize an outstanding group of fifth grade students, if you want to all have them all
So
come up.
we'll call each up individually. You're welcome to applaud for each child, and then we'll have them stay up here. Mr. Oshana can read a certificate, and we'll get a group picture of them.
Perfect. Okay, so each student developed and ran a campaign centered on an issue that they are passionate about, demonstrating civic awareness, public speaking skills, and a commitment to making their community a better place. So from our schools, we are proud to recognize Luca Luciani from Daranowski School, who focused on addressing littering. If you want to come up.
You have his certificate?
Okay. We have Jaden Rosas from Strong School, who promoted increased exercise. Jaden. Bryant Massey from Thalberg School, who advocated for healthy food alternatives. Arabella Testa from Hatton, who raised awareness about hunger and homelessness. Keegan Hill from Oceana, who highlighted the importance of supporting our first responders.
I swapped certificates. Keegan, there you go. Congratulations. You're welcome.
And Mia Bashiri from Flanders School here. She focused on physical education and increased exercise as well, so we'll make sure she gets her certificate. Okay. So these students really exemplify the power of student voice and the importance of civic engagement at an early age, and let's give them a round of applause.
We're going to have
Take a photo quick.
you come in here first and take a picture, and then we'll say something.
Go ahead, Mrs. Rogala.
Come on, there's, you go take a picture right here.
Right in the middle.
You want us to get,
There you go. And this is Carmody.
how about we, we get out of your picture. Oh, no, we're good. Oh, you want us to stand up? At least stand back.
Look at that.
you have duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Southington Public Schools, and hereby awarded the Certificate of Excellence for the 2026 Kid Governor Candidate. In witness whereof, the seal of the Southington Board of Education and the signature of the Board of Education Chairman, Superintendent of Schools, are hereunto affixed the 16th day of April, 2026. Again, you should be very proud of yourself. Parents, the parents should all be proud of their children. Look at what they've done. You know, and I was going to say this at the end, but I'll say it now and I'll say it again. Talk a lot about standardized testing. We talk a lot about metrics of what we're looking at, how we graduate our students, and what kind of district we have in the town of Southington. Looking at something like that is important. Looking at the quality and the caliber of the kids that we're graduating, that are going through our school, is a heck of a lot more important. These are the kind of kids that this town should be very proud of. You should be very proud of.
Next, I would like to invite up Mr. Michael Colantonio, our Health and Department PE leader, and Mrs. Stearns to the podium for our fire prevention poster contest winners. Mike's going to say a few words. Both of the artworks are displayed on there if you want to toggle through the computer. Oh, we have them with you, okay.
Okay, Mrs. Stearns brought the posters with her too, so she will be holding them up for us. But for those of you that do not know, each year, hundreds, if not thousands of 4th and 5th grade students across the state of Connecticut participate in the fire prevention poster contest. This is an important initiative that is funded by our local fire department. And Rick Moeller is, in particular, somebody that is a great partner and is very supportive of the program. He unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but he wanted to extend his congratulations to our winners. This year marked the first year in which the fire prevention program was formally integrated into our elementary health curriculum. Students engaged in meaningful learning about key fire prevention messages. They identified safe behaviors and explored ways to prevent injury and promote personal health. As part of the program, students created fire prevention posters that are judged in the 4th and 5th grade levels, and there has to be something special going on at South End, as both of our 5th and 4th grade winners are from South End. Their posters, as you can see, are on display this evening, and their artistic talent and attention to detail are truly impressive. So if you can please join me in congratulating our 4th grade winner, Chatham Formeister. Chatham, please come on up. And our 5th grade winner, Mackenzie Spahik. Mackenzie, please come forward.
Step down a little bit further. And there's the other poster on the screen as well. Again, I look at this and I say, you know, fire prevention, it's not only very important, it's very scary. You know, being able to give our community some understanding that it's not just, oh, throw some water on it and it goes out. This is life and death situation. Another example of the caliber of the students that we've got in this community. They're looking at things not from the surface level, they're looking at things for the importance of our community. So I'm going to steal your certificate for a moment and say that both of you have received a certificate here being duly qualified under the standards prescribed by the Southington Public Schools, are hereby awarded this certificate of excellence for the 2025-2026 Fire Prevention Poster Recognition Program for 5th grade and 4th grade. And congratulations to 12 for South End Elementary School. In witness here of the seal of the Board of Education and the signatures of the Board of Education Chairperson, Superintendent of Schools, hereunto affixed this 12th day of March 2026. Congratulations to both of you, and thank you for keeping your community safe. No, come on back, come on back. right, we are going to take a short recess so the Board of Education members can come down and congratulate all of our winners this evening.
Carrie, do you want to go down?
All right, we are going to begin our meeting. You can feel free if you'd like to stay and join us. But if you don't want to, you can sneak out if you'd like as well.
Does that go for us too?
No.
Good to see you too.
I tried.
See, Mike, good to see you. Take care. One, two, three. We're good. All right.
Bob's helping Terry.
Yeah. All right. So my computer doesn't work, which is not good.
That was fun.
Oh, doesn't that make you feel good? Wow. All right. Moving on. Before we get started, Mr. Brown, I think you have a motion you'd like to make?
Yes, let me find it. I move to add to the agenda item 11Z, student expulsion.
Okay, we have a motion. Second? Mr. Bashevsky? Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll add that as 11Z. Thank you. We're looking for a motion to approve our minutes from our March 12th, 2026 meeting.
Second?
Motion, Mrs. Carmody, second, Mr. Pazuski. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The next item is a special meeting that was held on April 13th. 3 members of our Board of Education were there as members of the expulsion committee. Those 3 members are able to vote on this. The remaining board members, since we were not there, while we read it, we should abstain from that vote. So I'm looking for an approval, and we have 3 members. Do you know who the 3 members were that were there? It's Mrs. Darrenowski Anastasio, Mr. Whitehead, and Mrs. Carmody.
So should I read everyone's name still?
Yes.
Okay.
We still need a motion.
Oh, wait, that would help. A motion should come from one of those 3.
We need a
Terry?
motion to approve the
Ms.
minutes first.
Yes.
So I make a motion to approve the minutes from the April 13th, 2026 meeting.
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. Now, any comment on those, questions on those? No? Okay, call the roll.
Mr. Bajewski,
Abstain?
Mr. Brown,
Abstain?
Ms. Camuso,
Abstain.
Mrs. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Abstain.
Mrs. Darrenowski Anastasio,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Yes.
and Mr. Oceana.
I will abstain as well, and the motion does pass 3-0 with 6 abstentions. Thank you. All right.
Kelly's not here.
Oh, 5 abstentions. All right, day is having a tough day so far. All right, we're going into public communications, and we'll start with our student board representative.
Hello, board members. It is just me today because Archie and Samrat that are at a robotics competition in Massachusetts. So I'll start us off with a high school report. Junior prom was held before break, and it was a success and a great experience for our students. This week marks the return of our return from spring break, so everyone is getting back into their routines. And today, juniors participated in SAT School Day, where they undertook the SAT exam, which is an important metric for college admissions and testing data. Looking ahead, next Friday, the high school will host the spring dance for underclassmen, which is themed this year Starry Night. Additionally, the spring concert will be held next Tuesday, and it will showcase the hard work and talent of our student musicians. For the district report from DePaulo, the Kennedy and DePaulo Middle School Drama Club completed this year's production of Frozen, which was well attended by many people. And there were over 120 middle school students that were involved in the cast and crew this year. April is Autism Awareness Month, and DePaulo will be hosting fundraisers each week in April, with proceeds benefiting Autism Services and Resources Connecticut. DePaulo is also preparing for their annual Taste of Culture event, which will be held later this month, and this will give families an opportunity to showcase their heritage with the school community. Students on Team 6B at JFK are spearheading a school-wide Lights Out Day on Earth Day this year. Teachers and staff are being encouraged to use natural light in their classrooms instead of overhead lights in an effort to save energy and reduce their carbon footprint. JFK's Flannel Fridays for a Cause raised over $1,500 by donating $1 every Friday in exchange for wearing flannel PJ bottoms. They were able to donate their money to Bread for Life, the Prudence Crandall Center, and Southington Community Services. And majority of the JFK teams are heading on field trips. Grade 8 will visit Boston, and grade 7 will visit the old Newgate prison. For the sports report, spring sports are underway at DePaulo, and baseball and softball tryouts have been concluded, and the teams were selected. At the high school, the spring sports season is in full swing. The softball team remains undefeated and ranked top in the state. The outdoor boys and girls track team also remains undefeated. The girls golf team played their first ever varsity match against Berlin this week. This is their first year as a varsity program at the high school. The boys and girls tennis and lacrosse teams, along with boys volleyball, have all found success to start the year. The girls flag football team, which is now under the CIAC, played their first game under their lights at home. We held, in addition, we held our first round interviews for next year's student representatives this week, and we'll have a final decision very soon. So that is very, very happy for us.
Nice. Thank you very much. Any questions for our student representative? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much. And we'll move on to communications from Board of Education members. Any board member? Mr. Brown?
Yes, one quick thing. The Wall of Honor at the high school, we have a deadline of May 15th for applications. Already received quite a few. If you want to find an application, you can either go to the Southington High School website and look in Wall of Honor, or if you get in touch with me, I'll send you one. So it's a wonderful thing, and we'll have the induction ceremony in the fall after selecting people.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Anybody else? Any other, Mrs. Carmody?
Yes, I would just like to repeat what you said tonight when you were giving out the awards to the students, how proud we are as Board of Ed members and community members of the education that we give our students. Sitting here and watching these kids get these awards is unbelievable, and it makes us very proud and happy. And we hope that we have the support of our community for all of the things that we do in our schools, because we do a wonderful job. So I just wanted to mention that, and you did a good job saying that. Thank you.
We should be proud of them. I mean, this is our future, right? This is what we should be
Yeah,
doing.
I
We don't
know.
look at, Mr. Brown, you talk about standardized scores. Mrs. Carr, you talk standardized tests. I'm just going to get my soapbox for 1 minute. Standardized tests are standardized tests. You have to take them. There's no choice. The students don't get anything on their GPA or in their report card or anything. So how much preparation do they actually do on them? Some, I'm sure, do a lot, but not everybody does. So those tests come in, and we still are doing better. Those numbers are still going up. But judge us on the quality and caliber of the students as they move through our system and when they're out, and they've been out of the district, out of the system for a year, 2 years, 5 years. I
Right,
think that's when Southington shines its brightest, so.
And Mr. O'Shannon, one more thing. The young man that won the oratorical contest, he did go on to the state level, and he came in third at the state, and financially, there's quite a bit of money that you do get for that. They have, I can't, for many, many years when I was a teacher at the high school, I used to run that. And these kids have to speak spontaneously on topics for the Constitution, and it's really difficult. I can't even tell you how difficult it is for them to do it. And they're given 5 minutes to prepare. And I asked him how many kids went from Southington High School this year. And he said there were 4 students that participated, which is a pretty significant number. Kids are involved in sports and everything else, but he did go to the state, and he did come in third. And so we should be very proud of that from our school.
Mr. Carson?
Yeah, and, just to reinforce, our point of discussion here, I think it's important to acknowledge, and I know, Joe speaks to this all the time on a variety of topics, but parenting, and then our staff, our teachers and administrators, we speak on it because we're up here on the dais, and, this is what we got elected to do. And so we do take pride in these moments, but honestly, like when I see these students up here accepting recognition and awards, I immediately think of the parenting that's taking place at home, and then the teaching that's taking place in our school system, district-wide. And I actually, when we had our break, I actually went down and talked to Bryant, who was one of our recipients tonight, and his topic was healthy food. And so I asked him about that, and, you know, one of the specific questions I asked him was, you know, when you go home in the afternoon after school, what is the snack that's available to you on the kitchen counter? And I said, is it a bag of chips or is it a piece of fresh fruit? And he actually responded with, and of course his mom is sitting right next to him. He actually responded with, well, actually it's seaweed. And he gets a pack of seaweed as a healthy snack when he comes home from school. And I was just like, you know, it's phenomenal, it's fantastic. And I'm like, well, if you can talk to, you know, 5 of your classmates, right, and start the conversation to, you know, push forward a healthy food initiative, right? That's where it starts. But it started at home, you know, with his mom and dad, to be like, this is what's going to be available, and this is why.
Nice.
And so I just wanted to add that to the comments.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Camuso?
Thank you. I had the chance to attend the Frozen at a middle school, and it was incredible. Every time I go, and I try to go every year, they just blow me away every single year. But this year, you know, even better than the last. Incredible, and I think you said it was 120 students. I mean, that's a big number to be managing across 2 middle schools, but it's just really an incredible opportunity if you can get to it. I know some of you probably did attend, but it was really, really wonderful this year. Yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Wachewski?
I just had a couple of observations over the past couple of weeks and doing a little bit of traveling, seeing some of our high school students play at other schools. I have to say, in comparing what we've done with their track and the slow progress that we've been doing with the athletic fields, we're definitely ahead of some of these schools. And, you know, seeing just some of the deterioration with their tracks and everything else, it's been excellent to see that we're doing something about it. With that being said, though, you know, I know that lately online there's been a lot of referendum talk and everything else. I want the Southington folks to be clear in a sense of, just because a referendum doesn't pass doesn't mean the work still doesn't have to get done. And I think to the point of that, now we're in a position as a board to make sure that our athletic complex gets improved the way that it's supposed to get improved, ultimately leading it to be a much more expensive project in a sense that now it's piecemealed over the course of 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So with that being said, you know, again, like I hope to continue conversations with all the stakeholders involved, whether it's parents of, you know, from the different elementary schools to the folks that, you know, again, like internally on this board and everything else. Again, like, we have to be clear in our messaging. We have to be clear, you know, everybody keeps talking about taxes. Yes, things are getting more expensive, but as a small business owner, you know, when we have a situation where we have to put up 35 cents and they're willing to match us 65 cents, Southington, Connecticut doesn't get money from the state of Connecticut because we manage our town too well. We see that every year when, again, we have a flat raise as far as what our education and cost sharing grant. So it's important to realize that there's very few times that we're actually able to get these state dollars. I think certainly with the school projects that we have coming up, it's important that we all kind of get on the same page and you know, hopefully do good by that. But again, again, to wrap it back up, it's been kind of nice to see us shining in our what we have for athletics and students and, you know, what we're doing here in town, and seeing that abroad. So
Great.
thanks.
That's great to hear. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to communications from the administration.
Special
So, a couple updates for the board. As a follow-up to Linda and Paula's presentation, we have secured funding for the donation of all the kindness benches. They've all been installed with the exception of 2, and we're looking to do some dedications in June. So we'll send you some dates for some of those dedications. We're going to involve the students and kind of make it a big deal at each of the schools. So I'm glad to see that's going forward. I toyed with this one tonight, and I struggled, went back and forth over the SHS Color Guard. For those of you, you may have seen it on social media or heard about it in the community, they won the World Championships over April vacation in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. And as part of my report, I wanted to actually play the video of them today because it's unbelievable. But I thought I would rather play it for everybody when they're in the room instead of taking that away from them. So we are going to bring them to one of our upcoming meetings, and we will play their routine for everyone. But it's one of those things that the margin for error is very, very small in that competition. I mean, they make some amazing throws between the flags and, you know, the model rifles that they use and whatnot, and they're tossing them very high up, and they're rotating, and everything's got to be done in, you know, sync, you know, and also it's not only synchronized, you can't have any drops, everything has to be flawless. You could tell at the end of the video, they knew they nailed it. It was like they had their perfect moment kind of thing. And so I will send you the link so you can watch it if you want. I think I may have sent it to you, but if I haven't, I'll put it in my update. I strongly encourage you to take 4 minutes and watch. You will be so proud of that group and mesmerized at the same time, you know. So definitely was a highlight of my day when I got to view that and learn about their accomplishments. Monday, I'll be going with the town manager up to Hartford. There's a press conference at 9:30 in the morning through the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, and all superintendents are invited from all different districts to continue to lobby for more education cost share funding this session. The governor announced a blue ribbon commission to study the problem and give him a solution by January of 2027. While that may still help us for the next legislative session, if they decide to make some recommendations, what we all know is we're up against it right now. And when I spoke at my Hartford area superintendent's meeting last week, and we do our roundtable at the end, the theme was the same. Everybody's looking at a significant increase in over what they've had, and they're up against it because reevaluations have happened everywhere. Real estate isn't unique to Southington right now in terms of supply and demand, and so taxes are going up. State funding is staying flat, and so the ask is of the local taxpayer. And it's really gotten very challenging for communities, and so we're going to continue to go up together and jointly lobby for that increased funding for Southington on Monday. And then lastly, we got our excess cost reimbursement, which for special education, and it's something I also have talked about year over year. One of the most difficult parts of the budget to manage is special education in terms of there's not a contingency account. So when you create your budget, you create for what's known, you know, how many paraeducators you're going to need, what is the cost of the outplaced tuitions you have, the cost of transportation related to those types of situations, your specialized programs, and staffing needed in those programs. And, you know, if it's not been budgeted for, it essentially becomes an unfunded liability. Like, you still have to pay for it. That's a commitment, you know, to the child and what they need. But if it's not in the budget, you rely on the excess cost reimbursement to help offset that. Statutorily, we're supposed to get 88% back based on the tier we sit in, based on our community wealth factor and the formula that they use. We got 70% back in December, which isn't 88%. We've seen 75 to 76% at times. We did last year, but only because of the special legislation that was passed and that late appropriation that we got. We learned this past week that it's going to be 69.16%, so less than 70%. Again, so what's the dollar value to that? It's significant when we talk about that's money we put in claims for based on the excess cost formula, that we're falling 18% short of what we're eligible for. And that's in a dream world. That's not even to say the reality is I think every district should get 100% excess cost reimbursement once they exceed the 4.5 times of the per pupil threshold that the district spends. That's probably a pipe dream I'll never see in my lifetime, the 100% funding. But even at the 88%, we wouldn't be in the financial situation that you're probably about to hear about shortly with the Finance Committee meeting, if the money that the state owes us was given to us. So that's another area that I'll continue to lobby for, that they continue to fund appropriately special education and excess cost associated with that, so that we can be sure to make sure that we're able to manage the budget with the needs of the students. So that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bedancy. Any questions for the administration? Mr. Whitehead?
Just a couple of questions. Thank you, Mr. Medanzi. For the people that are watching or in the public, you mentioned lobbying. Practically speaking, what is it that we can do or residents can do outside of the forum here to help our cause or your cause where you go to these kind of events in Hartford? What would that look like?
Great question. Any resident can email any one of our local delegations, so Representative Poulos, Representative Mastro Francesco, Representative Veach, Representative Martinez, or Senator Sampson. And they're able to basically, all of their email addresses are on the state website, but they are welcome to reach out to those to say, please support funding of education at appropriate levels. That's really what it boils down to in its simplest form. They do also have public hearings often, and so at the beginning of a legislative session, they'll put out the schedule for legislative hearings. They'll take it written testimony, so if people are working and can't go, they can submit written testimony. They also will allow people to testify virtually, and so that's another option for people that may be working but want to weigh in on a bill. And then lastly, you can go there and testify in person. I will say, having experienced that portion of things, it can be quite a bit. So for instance, one of our health and physical education department leader wanted to testify on Senate Bill 222, which was a physical education related bill. And he sat online for 8.5 hours waiting for his turn to testify.
That's nuts.
And he did it, much to his credit, and hit it out of the park. But I don't know that it's always that user-friendly for the public. And so I would say written testimony, but more than anything, reaching out directly to your delegation would be probably the most effective way.
And thank you, Mr. Superintendent. And last question, and so the percentages that we're talking about, this is with respect to special education?
Yes. And just as a number, if we were to get what we're supposed to get, so we got 69.16%, if we got the 88%, we would have received $867,257 more. That's based on what we were eligible for. So that's what we didn't see, and that's where we end up having to, unfortunately, either postpone projects, cancel projects, go to hard spending freeze, do what we need to do to offset that deficit that sits within our budget.
So that number is the roughly 19% that they fell short on?
Yep, yes.
Gotcha.
And technically speaking, it's not what we could have gotten, it's what we should have gotten.
Correct.
The way that the regulation is written. So, sad. All right, anything else for the administration? No? Okay. We'll move on to communications from the public on agenda items. If there's anybody that would like to speak on something that's on the agenda this evening, come on up, state your name and address for the record, and we have 5 minutes. Going once? Nobody? All right, thank you. We will move then into our committee reports. We have 3 this evening, and we're going to start with the Policy and Personnel Committee.
We met on Tuesday, March 24th, and the meeting went as follows. Revisions to Policy 1250 and associated R 1250, visitors and observations in schools reviewed. The phrase school principal or his or her designee was replaced throughout the policy and regulation with the word administration. This change reflects the potential need of central office personnel to meet a vendor or another person at the school. Best practice is to make the building administration aware, was discussed. The policy and regulations now reflect the process if a federal immigration officer were to appear in person at the school, and the procedures reviewed have been in practice since August of 2025, and they're now codified. Revisions to Policy 3250 and R 3250, material services fees and charges were reviewed. Rates for the copies of records were updated. Transcript and employee verification charges were added. As part of an ongoing efforts of the Human Resources Department, updated language for policy 4121, R 4121, 4145, 4190, R 4190, 4125, 4220, and policy 4315 were reviewed. Policy R 5111, administration placement ages of attendance, were updated to reflect changes in legislation for both kindergarten entry as of June 2026, as well as for students in the Southington's post-secondary transition program. Updated language was offered for policy 5121 and R 5121, examination grading rating to reflect current practices at all 3 levels. And specific language was added to policy 5133 and R 5133, participation in athletics and other co-curricular activities regarding substantiated violations of Title IX and Title VI and bullying. And our next meeting for policy is May 12th at 5:30 in the superintendent's conference room.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Are there any questions for the policy committee? Mr. Bashevsky?
I just had more of a statement. We actually had a number of folks from the public come to our policy meeting. Thank you. We know that it's inconvenient, during the day, but again, I think it's great that you guys are part of the process. And again, it was nice to have extra people there and seeing how we conduct business.
Great.
It was good. It was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you said that, because you and I had that conversation,
Yeah.
and more people should come to these
Yes,
meetings.
yes.
And I know it's hard, because life goes on.
Yeah.
But being able to come and see how the meeting is done, how these processes are done, because all of the work is done in
In-house.
committee,
It
right?
is.
You go to committee, and then it comes to the board, there's conversations, but the only other thing I'll add to that is,
Yeah.
all of these policies, all the curriculum, all the finance stuff, it's all out on our website.
Yes.
If anybody's interested, you can go out there, you can pull it up, you can look at it, and every one of our policies, not only the revisions, are out there. You can pull up our policy book at any time.
They are.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll go on to Mr. Brown and the Curriculum and Instruction Committee.
Yep, this was a meeting on March 31st. It was a long meeting. I am going to go through the details because I think the public should hear all the work our teachers are doing. It's terrific. So, and all of these were recommended by the committee. SHS teacher and department leader Nicole Recio presented revisions to biochemistry. The phenomenon presented is baby Matthew. Baby Matthew, born perfectly healthy, starts to exhibit strange symptoms after a few days. His condition is categorized as failure to thrive. Students are challenged to determine what is causing the problem and if he can be saved. Students explore biomolecules, enzymes, and metabolism to determine if his challenge is related to, and these are all diseases here, Tay-Sachs disease, maple syrup urine disease, keystone synthesis defect, or glycogen storage disease type 1. SHS teacher Kelsey Duffy presented a new curriculum titled Astronomy Unit 1, Meteors, Orbits, and Gravity. This class can fulfill a student's earth science requirement after watching a video of the Chelyabinsk meteor, that was in Russia, by the way. Students are presented with the phenomenon of how collisions with objects from space changed Earth in the past, and how could they affect our future. To experience this journey, students explore Newton's universal law of gravitation, orbital motion, energy transfer with gravitational fields, and the history of Earth. I think there was a movie recently about that, if anyone saw that. Kelsey Duffy also presented a new curriculum titled Astronomy 2, Stars and the Big Bang. Students are challenged to explain why some stars seem unchanged, while others appear briefly, change dramatically, and fade away. To explore these concepts, students will embrace concepts related to nuclear fission, Big Bang theory, light spectra, star life cycles, and feedback loops. Some of this, by the way, took quite a bit of explanation for us. SHS Ag Science teacher Nicole Wilcox presented 2 new courses titled Advanced Non-Ruminant Livestock Management and Ruminant Livestock Management. Both units cover safety, anatomy, musculoskeletal systems, digestive systems, nutrition, reproduction, health and disease, and handling and restraint. Nicole Wilcox presented a specialty ag science elective course titled UConn SPS 1150 Agricultural Technology. The units of study are as follows. Unit 1, Evolution of Early Humans and Agricultural Beginning. Unit 2, The World's First Agricultural Societies. Unit 3, Agriculture in Ancient Rome. Unit 4, Medieval European Agriculture. Unit 5, European Colonialism and the Columbian Exchange. Unit 6, Colonial New England and Agricultural Identity. Unit 7, the Second Agricultural Revolution. Unit 8, Agriculture under Communism. Unit 9, Third Agricultural Revolution and the Future. This course is designed to provide students with a comprehensive understanding of the historical, technological, and cultural developments that have shaped global agriculture from early human civilization to the present day. As a former world history teacher, I loved hearing this one. Nicole Wilcox presented revisions to an existing course called Ag-Sci ECE Turfgrass. Offered to juniors and seniors, this course students will build foundational knowledge of plant biology, including photosynthesis, respiration, dormancy, and water nutrient movement through xylem and phloem. That's Phloem, by the way. Students will understand the fundamental concept of turfgrass science, including classification, plant growth, anatomy, and methods for evaluating turf quality. Students will learn to distinguish monocots from dicots, identify major grass plant structures, and understand how grasses spread through stolons, rhizomes, and tillers. Please don't ask me to explain what all those are. The unit also covers how turf quality is measured, color, texture, density, and uniformity, and explore the relationship between turfgrass maintenance levels and cultural intensity. SHS Math Department Leader Marissa Kudla presented a new class titled Math for Technology and Innovation. This course seeks to provide a foundation for applied manufacturing mathematics to students so they have the fundamental skills in this domain to begin their careers in production. This includes an application of the 4 basic functions: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, as well as 3-dimensional geometry, algebra, and trigonometry. Various industry-specific hand measuring tools, i.e. ruler, caliper, micrometer, etc., are utilized throughout the course. In addition, industry-specific calculations like speed and feeds, spur gears, center-to-center distance, dovetails, tapers, etc., are performed throughout the course. By the end of this course, students should have a clear understanding of the need for a keen sense of mathematics in the manufacturing sector. We're almost done here. Jess Levin, director of the Karen Smith Academy, presented elective American Sign Language. Students have the opportunity within the Flex block to develop a basic proficiency through a participatory communicative approach. Emphasis will be placed on the development of signing skills and the acquisition of the fundamentals of grammar as it applies to sign language. Students will learn to translate basic English to sign language and signing back to English. Students will learn about the importance of sign language and the expanse of its use in society. Mr. Levin introduced Karen Smith Academy Science, which students can access during the Flex block. This course will focus on ornithology and entomology via the following 5 units: Foundations of Ornithology, Taxonomy, Evolution, and Diversity, Bird Behavior and Ecology, Birds in the Environment, and Conservation and Human Connection. SHS Physical Education Department Leader Anthony Loomis proposed reinstating outdoor archery safety as a major emphasis through the command style teaching. Only trained instructors will engage students in the activity, and only students interested in archery will potentially participate. The committee directed Mr. Loomis to develop the unit of study in Southington's adopted format and present it at a future curriculum instruction meeting. So that one we're not taking action on. And finally, SHS Department Leader Rebecca Migliero proposed the novel Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid as a choice for seniors who participate in the elective titled English Literature and Pop Culture. The text is loosely based on the tumultuous relationships in the popular rock band Fleetwood Mac. This one sounds great. This novel follows a 1970s band through their rise and fall. This item is informational only and does not need further action, and that's the report. It was a
Wow.
good meeting.
Great meeting.
Good job, Bob.
Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Brown or the committee?
Please don't ask to define any of those scientific terms.
Wow, okay, thank you very much. Ms. Camuso, would you bring us the Finance Committee report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I trust you'll have the opportunity to read the minutes. I'll provide a brief summary of each of the items that we discussed at that Finance Committee meeting held on April 9th, 2026. The committee reviewed proposed reimbursement rates for the YMCA's before and after care program for the 2026-2027 school year. These rates cover custodial overtime, taxes, pension contributions, electricity, and supplies. The YMCA is also considering adding aftercare at South End Elementary, and a rate for this new location is included. The committee agreed to bring the rates to the full board for approval. The YMCA continues to offer programming at multiple elementary schools, and for the upcoming year, as I stated, they're proposing that after school program at South End Elementary based on family interest, and the administration is recommending that approval. I would like to make a motion on this agenda item, 8.c.1, but before I do so, I would like to reiterate that I can indeed make this motion and vote on the agenda item as previously discussed with the superintendent. So, Mr. Medancy, as the parliamentarian, would you please reconfirm that I can make the motion and I can vote on the motion given I am an employee of the YMCA but do not have any involvement with the before or after school programs?
Correct.
Excuse me, aftercare programs.
Correct, yes, you may.
I move to approve the YMCA before and aftercare program rates for the 2026-2027 school year as presented by the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second by Mr. Carson. Are there any questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Okay, thank you. The committee next reviewed a request related to greenhouse repairs funded through the AST grant. Due to the proprietary nature of the equipment, only one qualified vendor was identified. And per board policy 3320, the administration requested a waiver of the bidding process and recommends awarding the $24,950 project to J.C. Vanderspec Greenhouse Services funded by the ASTE grant and within the superintendent's approval authority for those amounts under $25,000. No action on that one, just inform. The committee also reviewed the newly established District Repair and Improvement Project, or DRIP, grant approved by the state of Connecticut. Southington Public Schools will receive $269,132.43 for the existing year ending June 30, 2026, with funds eligible to carry over into the next year. A draft list of priority projects was presented by the administration, including flooring replacements, classroom and building improvements, HVAC-related items, athletic and parking lot repairs, and other building safety needs. Approval of the project list is requested to allow summer work to proceed, with the understanding that this list remains flexible and will be updated as additional needs are identified and presented for review in upcoming Finance Committee meetings. And we will have another one of these meetings at the end of April as well. We're going to have several before the end of this year. I move to approve the draft list of uses of the District Repair and Improvement DRIP grant as presented by the Finance Committee.
Second.
A motion and a second by Mr. Carson. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, hang on.
Just one quick question.
I'm sorry, I missed you.
So on the greenhouses, you mentioned that there was only one approved vendor?
The previous item? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, what was the reason for that? Was it just because there was only one?
It's a proprietary, I'm happy to let.
You know what, why don't we
Mrs.
do this?
Mallett
Why don't we
speak to it?
finish this vote,
sorry,
because
Mr.
this,
Chair.
no, you're good. We'll finish this vote, and then we could bring that question up, because it doesn't have to do with
Thank you.
this particular item. So we have a motion and a second on the DRIP grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Before you move on, Mr. Whitehead, we'll go back to his question.
Just if you could opine on that, just for clarity.
Sure, the greenhouse that's on the ASTE or Ag Site building was installed by a certain vendor. Their system is proprietary to what they alone can provide, so that is where that's coming from. And the second piece of it, part of it is the roofing panels in the greenhouse, and the second part is a bench tray system where the water goes through, and there's repairs that are necessary for that. And again, the whole thing has to be taken care of by the system that is currently in place.
Understood. So the system that we installed is proprietary to them, and then the resolution for anything that would happen would be proprietary to them. Thank you.
And just as a side note, there's someone in a different district with a similar situation, and we corresponded back and forth about any other alternatives to that one provider or vendor, and there were no other alternatives.
And my understanding is it's over 20 years old, or approximately 20 years. Is that
When the building was installed.
Thank you.
It was in the
Thank you for the question. Ms. Camuso?
So as you saw in the packet presented to the board, there is a proposal to renew the district's athletic training services contract. The current contract for those athletic training services with Select Physical Therapy expires on June 30, 2026. The business office did poll other school districts about their services and found that there was a mix of in-house and contracted models at varying costs. Due to staffing shortages statewide related to these training services and the growing demands of our athletic program, the administration recommended increasing coverage from 40 to 60 hours per week. Select Physical Therapy submitted 2 renewal options that would increase coverage to 60 hours per week with 2 assigned trainers, including a lower cost option tied to a 5-year agreement. The proposed 5-year contract aligns with 2026-2027 operating budget assumptions, but would require an additional $10,000 to fully fund services. Renewal of this proposal will allow Select Physical Therapy to hire a new employee to be designated to Southington, along with the existing trainer, who has been a longstanding contracted athletic trainer in Southington. So they can provide consistent services to the athletes. The athletes will see the same person. There won't be like one person one day, the next person. So that trainer would be familiar with any injuries and be consistent throughout the healing process. There was a unanimous consensus of the committee to bring the 5-year option before the board. So with that, I move to approve the athletic training services renewal proposal from Select Physical Therapy for a 5-year term as presented by the Finance Committee.
Second?
A motion and a second by Mr. Carson. Any questions or discussion? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Thank you very much. Next, we have the superintendent's report.
I have
Oh, we have more. I'm sorry. I'm trying to move us along here. Sorry about that.
No, that's
Those are your
okay.
3 motions.
Yes, that's correct. The committee also reviewed the food service financial update through February 2026. Meal participation continues to be lower than the prior year, largely due to snow days. I feel like I'm repeating myself. And currently, food services is reporting a net loss of $101,482. Ms. Maxellen, our food services director, provided a memo sharing information about the National School Lunch Program and noted that 26% of our students currently receive free or reduced meals through the program. And I'll just add about the negative meal debt has also increased and totals $15,769 as of February 28th, 2026. It was noted that over $9,500 of that negative meal debt is owed from approximately 42 students, each owing over $100. So two more things. Additionally, just for informational purposes, the district is updating their 403B plans to allow for Roth contributions in order to comply with the new IRS rules that require catch-up contributions for employees over 50 years old that have over $145,000 in FICA earnings to be made on a post-tax basis. So that's being updated. And just one last thing, we're going to talk about the financial update for the current year. So the administration provided an update on the current year fiscal 25-26 budget, projecting a deficit of approximately $340,000. I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Mallet to provide more details related to this potential operating budget shortfall and plans for mitigation.
Sure, thank you. As Ms. Camuso stated, we had a meeting. We went through some of the areas. The last several meetings, we've been speaking about some of the areas of concern, particularly the number of family medical leave act absences of staff where we either had to pay more in substitute coverages and/or depending on the services, we had contracted to have speech services and occupational therapy services provided while staff members were out on a leave of absence. So that has contributed strain on our financial situation. We also talked about our outplaced special education students. The costs are higher than we projected. We have a few more students. I think it's about 5 students more than we projected are outplaced this year. There's several that have services that were not part of the budget that are being provided to these students. And then as Mr. Medianci stated, we had budgeted our reimbursement rate at 71%, which we thought would be conservative, hoping that the 88% would come, but knowing that they put the extra $40 million in the special education funding last year, but still, even with all of the extra money that they allocated towards the reimbursement grant, our percentage still came in at 69%. So that's, and one of the difficult things about that grant as well is the timing of us finding out what our final reimbursement rate is. We found out on April 8th what our final reimbursement rate is. So all of these months we're, operating under certain assumptions, and that makes it difficult to be in a situation where you're looking at the amount of expenses that we have. So that being said, our out-of-district special ed tuition line, which includes both the LEA placed and the agency placed, so if there's any kind of DCF situations, that also gets worked into there. So those two line items together are $330,000 over what we budgeted, which is obviously putting a strain. Then we also spoke about the accumulated sick payouts for staff that have already announced that they will be retiring in June as part of the teaching contract for employees hired before a certain date. They're allowed to carry over their sick days, and then they would receive a payout at 25% upon retirement. So that's something that they worked hard for. It was always part of the contract. Any new teachers that are coming in, that's no longer a benefit for them in the contract, but those that are retiring that have been here for several years, and I'm sure you've seen the personnel report that shows some of the number of years of our staff that are retiring. So that is putting a strain on us as well. That line item by itself is $107,000 over what we budgeted. So, and then, so those are the main things. What we are doing to mitigate these situations is we're canceling the Chromebook replacements for this year, for this fiscal year. That's $170,000 that we won't be spending. And when I'm showing the presentation of where our overage is at the beginning, we are assuming that we're going to make all the budgeted purchases. So now I'm telling you that we're over budget, so we're backing those out because those haven't been done yet. So we will not be buying the Chromebooks. And then the other item that we normally buy in June, which is a regularly budgeted item, is the math consumable workbooks, and along with that, the iReady software. So both of those will still be available for our students in the new year. However, we're not going to purchase it in the old year. We will purchase it as budgeted in the new year. So it's just a method of us to hold back in the current year. It's a result of the overages. And then we're continuing to look at the grant usage. I explained to the group that this is a very fluid presentation. We had our next payroll this week. Everything's been applied. We processed more checks. So every 2 weeks after all of this is happening, we're reviewing. There's about 240 accounts that are in our GL, and we're looking at each one of those lines. So we will be meeting again at the end of April, and we will continue to update the group and continue to look for any cost savings that we can.
Thank you, Mrs. Mellett. I think it's pretty clear there's a lot of unknowns in a Board of Ed budget, and makes it challenging to properly budget an accurate number. So we have to, and we have no contingency. So without any type of contingency, this is where it could land. So.
The only contingency, like we spoke about, and I think most of the group knows this, and the principals know this, any of the school supply line items, we hold the schools to a 75% spending limit during the first several months of the year, and then as we evaluate what other things happen that may be impacting the full budget, we hold back on spending in those areas. So that's the only type of contingency that we have, so we do what we can.
All right. Mr. Brown?
I think this points out what Mr. Whitehead was asking about before, how important it is for the public to talk to our legislators. The ECS and the special ed money especially. We're in a place, I mean, it almost sounds, and I'm not criticizing you, like we're kicking the can down the road. Some of these, like the math consumables, if we're gonna buy them next year, we're still gonna buy them, and then next year is already facing us as a problematical year, so we need to get the state to pay more money.
Let's hope.
And that's the public talking to all those people.
Thank you. Mr. Bashevsky?
So kind of two points to make. Ironically, I think we had a reduction by the town council last year of the tune of how much?
They reduced us to an additional 500,000 beyond what the Board of Finance recommended.
Awesome. So, and again, like I understand where the mentality comes from because, you know, I think over the course of a lot of years, and, you know, I know Mr. Daranowski would have weighed in on a lot of that. But how we budget now is very different to the yesteryears of how the budgets used to be, right? Like, okay, we're gonna put this money into this one and essentially like move the cups around a little bit. Again, like reductions in our budget have consequences, and I think it's a good thing that we have potential things that we can pull from, but in the same sense too, it's like technology becomes obsolete in a year. And when you have these set replacement schedules, you know, I hate talking about kicking cans down the road, but, you know, realistically, well, at some point, we have to pay the piper, and either they're gonna be more expensive, because everything's gonna be more expensive in a year, or, you know, we're just progressively gonna get further behind the 8 ball until we, you know, hit an issue. So, with that being said, when we send the Board of Education budget over to the town, I want the town to realize that, you know, these numbers aren't arbitrary numbers. And I'd be willing to bet my bottom dollar too that, you know, again, I think we all could probably agree on this. We usually don't have extras, right? There was a couple of years during COVID where I think they thought that we're cooking something into the pie, but, you know, ultimately, when you don't have kids going to a school, like, there are gonna be savings, regardless. So there was that point. And then the other point I wanted to chat a little bit more about, so the student debt that's incurred for food service. It's, you said roughly $52,000 or something?
No, the negative meal debt, is that what you're asking about, Joe? No, that's at 15,000.
Oh,
769.
15,000.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, is that, how does that compare to what they've been able to make in food service. Is that, puts us in the red? Are we still in the black with that?
No, Ms. Camuso noted that the food service income from operations through the end of February is at a loss of $101,000.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry, I missed that.
But I did reply, Ms. Camuso and I had this conversation that the balance sheet is also included as part of the packet for the Finance Committee. I'm not sure if it made it to the full board, but there is a fund balance of $2.9 million, $2.8 million. The loss of $100,000 where we currently are would just reduce the fund, the value of the fund. And it's not, the food service is a separate fund from the Board of Ed's budget. As you know from our conversations over the last couple of years, the funding stream from the COVID free meals for all allowed the district to have extra cash on hand because of the favorable reimbursement rates from the state. So we do have a plan with the state, as every food service operation. We're only supposed to maintain 3 months' worth of operating expenditures in our fund balance. We currently have excess in there, so we have worked on a spend down plan. We've done some replacements with the assistance of bidding by Mr. Fickle for certain equipment at the different locations. So the $100,000 loss, and this is only through February. We are going to be receiving certain one-time grants that are consistent with prior years as well. So it's not a bonus over a previous operation, but that will help reduce the loss that we're looking at. And we will be presenting at the next Finance Committee meeting a projection of the food service operations through the end of this year. So we're looking forward to the March, April, May, June, and preparing a projected result. So we'll come back with more information there, but that's kind of where we're at.
And again, to further my point, and again, one of the kid governors today, I think even though federal and state programming says that it's healthy lunches, I beg to disagree with some of the stuff that we offer our students. And I feel that if we were maybe to look at it more, because it is an independent venture, if you will, I know it's still part of what we have to manage as the Board of Education, but there could be potential ways of treating it more like a business, and a way of getting things, if you're not necessarily following their guidelines, for example, if you're able to sell bagels in the morning, I'll tell you what, the money that we're actually getting from federal grants and things like that, it would get to a point where I think we'd be able to make that money back and then some. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, do we still have a balance of the loan?
Yes, there's still a lot.
That we made? Now, if that's the case and they have excess money in that fund, could we potentially pull that over to cover our, where we're light this year? I know that wouldn't be an ideal circumstance, but, again, realistically, we have to do something.
Did you want to say anything? The source of that $300,000 did come from the Board of Ed's non-lapsing 20 account. So it is something that originated there, and it was always intended as a loan.
Okay, but because we're light this year, are we able to?
No, they can't pay it. They don't have the money to pay it.
That would be an action of this board, probably through the
They have
Finance Committee.
$2.9 million in a fund.
But you don't expect that they're going to be able to pay that loan back, correct?
The loan has been approved for payback through the state of Connecticut's spend down plan that we have with the state of Connecticut.
I think that would be an action for this board based on the recommendation of the Finance Committee.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we're, okay,
It's on the table.
gotcha, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I don't want to belabor it, I'll be quick. But the 300,000 keeps coming up, right? And so I think that people at home and here, and we all need to know, it doesn't take several children to make up that number, correct? So if we're talking about outplacement, that could be,
One kid,
One.
that's one student.
right? And so, or two, but for the pendulum to swing that significantly and really work to blow everything up, so to speak, is obviously not sustainable, and anything that we do outside of legislation is just going to be a Band-Aid. So, you know, and Ms. Melt, you all do a wonderful, wonderful job, but in your mind's eye and in the eyes of the board, what can we really do to look at a resolution that's going to be meaningful? Does that mean not sending children out for outplacement? You know, and really maybe some of the emotional disability type children, because I know that we do utilize some CREC schools. Farmington Diagnostic is one, but, you know, I'm inclined to say that we might be able to do a better job here within our district rather than spending $150,000 to, you know, outplace a child that maybe we could really service here at home. You know, just a thought, because those numbers are astronomical. And again, you know, you budget for something, and I'm not sure how many children we have in the school system, but I'm sure 2 isn't a lot, right? And so if we have a year where, you know, we go exponentially and we're at 10 or 20 children, then what are we going to do?
Can I speak to that?
Yes, sir.
So, 6,100 kids in the district about, right? 6,098, I think was our last count. I hear you, and that's why each year when the town council asks for our FTE count, I constantly say to them, you can't determine just solely based on the number of staff we have, how we're managing the budget. Because if there are instances where we're gonna add staff to provide services to a child that maybe wasn't in our budget, that may be cost avoidance. It might prevent us from sending them out. I think second, there are some children whose needs are you know, multifaceted, if you will, significant enough that we don't have a program specially designed to be able to meet what those needs are. That's just unfortunate, you know, circumstance that is a reality for us. So there's never going to be, I think, a situation where nobody needs to be outplaced and we're able to take everything in district, because there are some student, you know, that $300,000 student may be a medically fragile student with significant health needs in addition to, you know, academic needs. And some of those programs are highly specialized. And so you may not have enough students to have a program for a student like that. I also think, you know, there are areas, and Mrs. Oresco and I have talked about it, that we need to do better so that we don't have to resort to that. You know, if parents feel that we can meet their child's needs here in district, then there may be more cooperation and collaboration in, you know, placement decisions for students if we can justify and prove that we're doing a good job in the programs that we have. And so that's something we need to look at too. So if we can improve upon what we have, if we can add where we need to, there are, you know, one of the things I've talked about over and over is the Early Reading Academy for our K-2 students. I know we've talked about the Middle School Academy, but I've talked with all of you is the strategic plans. You know, we talk about our continuum of services, but that's an area for students with significant learning disabilities that we don't have a specialized program right now. I might be able to add staff there. That's going to cost us something, but I would argue if we look at what that would cost us versus what we're spending right now for those students that are outplaced, there's an area, to your point, where we can take some control. So there's no one solution. I think it's a combination of improving our existing services, adding programs where we think we can have a program, like there's enough student need to justify it, but there will always be those students who, you know, have multiple disabilities that are significant, that are beyond our programming needs. But a combination of those three things, I think, is the solution for us long term. But right now, right, if I wanted to start an Early Reading Academy right now, I'm looking at a $1.6 million reduction to our budget. How do I add those staff when I'm looking at laying off staff? It's very complicated and frustrating.
No, I agree, Mr. Superintendent. I do think, and I hear you on that, but I think if we're able to be in the forefront and actually think about having ideas instead of just resolutions, ideas that we can implement and actually have these programs here instead of having to go out. And I think that spending the money up front actually makes sense if you're starting to talk about 5 years or 10 years or 20 years down the line. So I think those ideas should start to come forth more than they are now, because if we keep going this way, we are going to be in a situation that's not sustainable. It's already not sustainable.
I agree.
So, but I think we're doing as best as we can, but I think we should really step outside of who we are and talk about building it here.
I agree.
Well, historically, I think, if I can, having served on this board for a couple of terms now, is a very metered response of building those programs where, at the end of the day, like managing our students in the town to which they live in, I think is the most successful opportunity for them, right? So it started with Mr. Cannellan. Certainly Mr. Medancy is kind of taking that on as well. So even though that we have some of these outplacements, we've had presentations of tens of millions of dollars of money saved. Again, cost avoidance, which is hard to quantify. I mean, we
Correct.
argue about solar all the time about cost avoidance and, magic rubrics to figure that out. But I mean, like realistically, I guess it depends on the relationships that we build, certainly the relationships that we kind of repair with our parents over the years, as we're continuing to move forward, so.
Agreed.
It's a big topic, big discussion.
Thank you, Mr.
We need to
Superintendent.
continue to move on with. Okay.
I just want one point of clarification. That deficit of 347,000 that's projected at this time, that's inclusive of the mitigation plan that Mrs. Mellett went through. I just want to be clear that it's actually more than that. It just, she's factoring in the mitigation plan items.
That's what.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Camuso. Thank you to all of our committees. It was a lot of work. These committees do a lot of work, and every board member serves on there, so thank you all very much for everything you're doing. Next is the superintendent's report. We have a motion for the personnel report.
I recommend that the Board of Education approve the personnel report as submitted by the Human Resource Department.
Second?
We have a motion, second by Ms. Camuso. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And motion passes 8-0. Okay, town government communications. Mr. Medancy?
Just a couple of brief announcements. I attended the town council meeting Monday evening. The town council voted on 3 resolutions. One was the language of the referendum, the second was the explanatory text, and the last was the setting of the referendum date. Originally, there was discussion on a June 2nd referendum date. They ultimately voted on a November 3rd referendum date. One of the questions came up about what does that do for the timeline of the project. We were originally supposed to finish in around February of 29-30, so this would push that to August of 29-30. As long as the referendum results are certified by November 15th, the election day is November 3rd. Kathy Larkin, the town clerk, said to me that they have to certify the results within 48 hours with the Secretary of State, so that would put us at November 5th. So as long as we certify those results by the 15th, we are still eligible to be on the state priority list in December. So just on that front. And then 2 other quick announcements. There's a public hearing for the town council that started on April 6th. I'm hopeful that it was just because it was spring break that we didn't have a big turnout, that maybe parents chose, and UConn was also playing that night, maybe that factored into it in the men's national championship. It's very important that we have a large turnout at the next public hearing, because the conversation you're hearing right now, I worry is going to be even more dire next spring at this time if the amount of reductions we're looking at actually come to fruition. I think it's one of those things over the years. I'm never one that has rallied the troops, so to speak. I don't believe in pitting groups against each other. I believe we're all taxpayers in the community. Not me personally, but I'm saying the community are all taxpayers. And, I think because we've not called people out to meetings, they always have this mindset, maybe, well, they'll figure it out. We don't need to come. But I'm also like, I don't cry wolf, so I'm not gonna rally people every year and say, if you don't come support the budget, these are all the things that can happen, then it doesn't happen, and then everybody just stops listening to you. So I'm hoping now that I'm saying it, people are listening. Like, this is a real situation we're up against, that if we get reduced by $1.6 million, it's going to lead to significant impact in our district next year. And so I'm going to send out another reminder to all of our families, but I also think we need to talk about how we get that information out. And then the town council will vote on May 11th. Now, the legislative session ends on May 6th, so we'll know if we get any more state funding. My worry, I'll just say it, is that that money is not used to reduce us further. Like, oh, so you're getting this much more, we'll put that in the, that's in our revenue column, and now our 5.9 ask only goes down to 4.9 ask, let's say, of the tax increase, because the state's giving us that much more. It doesn't help us at all, and so I think it's really important that we get as much involvement as we can, and I plan on sending out, again, multiple updates to our community, our staff, and our families to try and emphasize that.
Thank you. Yep. And I just have a couple things to go along with that, and listening to the conversation we just had makes it even more important, as Mr. Vidancy said. This is the second day of the town council's public hearing. The first meeting I was there for was a couple weeks ago. The next one is April 27th. So anybody that can go and make your voices heard. And if you're not comfortable getting up and speaking at the podium, but somebody is up speaking, go stand behind them, or raise your hand, or stand up in the audience so people can see that you're echoing those comments. But to your point, and to what we just heard, we don't know what's going to end up happening. But this is the first time I think I've heard the superintendent in my whole time on here, this board, to say there are going to be significant issues. So I'm going to ask for a special meeting of this Board of Education. And I'm going to have Lisa Rizzo pull the board tomorrow to look at next Thursday, the 23rd, so that the superintendent, Mrs. Mellett, Mr. Fickle, the team can come with some initial scenarios. Mrs. Passamano, you're going to be a big part of that. Mr. Romano, we need to see what we're doing, what we can do going forward. These aren't going to be the final answers, because we don't know what the final numbers are going to be, but at least getting some direction on what the administration is looking for. Because with the cuts that are already there, and you mentioned it's $2.6 million, but
1.6.
$1.6 million, but it's not really, because it was $3.2 million, and that difference is being made up with self-insurance money, which, what I'll just say, I don't think is a good move, but that's what's happening. So, but that's the number we have to make up now. We're already 347,000 in the hole this year, different thing, but different year. So we need to hear where you're coming from. So we're asking next Thursday for everyone that can be there, that you can come at least with some scenarios so that the public will know what we're looking at, and that can become part of the conversation on the 27th. Council votes on May 11th for the final budget for us at the Board of Education and the town of Southington. And what I'm also gonna ask is that we move our reallocation meeting. Our reallocation meeting right now is set for May 21st. I'm looking to add one more week to our agenda to May 28th. It's the following Thursday, so that depending upon what happens on the 11th, what happens at the state, and if the state does give us more money, but our budget is cut even further, and then there's something on top of that, we need to give the administration some time to put those situations together.
So
for
just
us.
to clarify, you'd be looking to cancel the meeting on the 21st?
Yes,
and
cancel
just
the
move it a
21st,
week
move
out
it
to the 28th, yeah.
Correct.
I mean, for us, that's extremely helpful, because if they vote on May 11th, when you put the weekend, that's right there. It gives me like 6 to 7 days to potentially come up with an entire plan of millions. 6, 7, yeah.
6, 7.
So,
Yeah. And it's important, because we've already seen some cuts. We may see some more cuts. We don't know what the final number is. But for a major decision like that, that's going to have short and long-term and long-lasting impact on the district, we need to give some time. So that's what I'd like to put out there at this point. I'll have Lisa reach out tomorrow and then send confirmation on this. If we could just have her also submit that to Mrs. Larkin so that she can get that posted as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Sir.
And just one more comment, going back to the referendum, because this was actually something that that I sought clarification myself as far as timelines go and referendum dates and what that means for reimbursement dollars with the state. And those, you know, when it comes to capital projects, you know, building new school facilities, rehab, the state determines a reimbursement rate on an annual basis, okay? And so, you know, we spoke to this earlier as a board, but, you know, right now here in Southington, we don't get a lot of state dollars, you know, because primarily those state dollars are going to the cities, okay? And so the burden of, you know, the Board of Education budget, especially when it comes, you know, to capital projects, new school facilities, you know, they go out to referendum, and, you know, that's a commitment from the community that we're gonna pay that money, okay? And so this year, we have a fantastic opportunity to maximize our reimbursement dollars from the state. That can change next year. We could see, based on the landscape that we're seeing currently and going into, those reimbursement dollars could dry up significantly, and we have a major project, capital project in front of us, you know, with these schools. So I just want to reinforce that it's vital that the taxpayers, the voters, and the entire Southington community, you know, get as much information as they can about this referendum and about our capital school projects, and that they come out and vote in November. Because if not in November, then we move into a new calendar year, a new fiscal year, and those reimbursement dollars that we're currently seeing as a commitment from the state, if we get on the priority list come December with a November referendum, that landscape could look drastically different in 2027. So I just want to encourage everyone to really intake the information, come out and support the referendum so we can build these schools for our families and our students.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. All right, we're going to move on to item 11. We're going to move into new business, 11A, board communication email practices. In our packet, we received a draft document, and I know there's been, the purpose behind this, let's talk about the purpose, is that there's been some questions, some concern about emails that come into the board and how we respond to those. And I think there's sometimes a feeling that we don't either, one, get them, or that they're not making an impact, or that we're not listening. And I think what we try to do as an organization, we have had a practice in place for, I mean, as long as I've been on the board, I'm sure it's been longer than that, of how things get responded to based on what the situation, what the question is. But every email that comes in, if it goes to SBOE or one of the board members, we all get, right? So we see it, we read it, it becomes part of our discussion, it becomes part of our intake, as we just heard, right? What we listen to, what we understand, and becomes part of the dialogue. But that also doesn't answer the question of, but you didn't write back to me. I didn't hear back. So we're looking at making a little bit more formalized method so that we could communicate it with the community of how and why it's happening this way. So, and I asked, actually, Mr. Bedancy and I have had a couple conversations on this, and I actually asked the question, why are we different than town council or the planning and zoning commission? And some of that has to do with some of the regulations of privacy that surround us, that go with the Board of Education, things about student privacy, student matters, things like that. So we build that into here as part of the discussion of this situation. But this is here today, so we could all take a look at it, read it, and then start making comments. There's no action tonight. We could have some discussion tonight, but I'd like to bring it back at our next meeting and have further conversations on it to see what we could add, change, delete, whatever we need to do to make it into something that we could all work on and that we can share with the community so that, one, and I think you've heard, and we do get every email, and we do read them, and they do become part of what we're thinking when we start having our conversations. But secondly, how do we respond? And this can make it clear for a lot of folks, including us and the community. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know if anybody wants to make any comments about it this evening, or take it home, digest it, throw some comments, questions, whatever, and we can bring it up at our next meeting. Okay. All right, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I struggle with some of this, because I, as an elected member of the board, and the public is the ones who got us here.
Right.
I talk to people, and I feel an obligation to do that. I think the thing to be clear on in what's written here is that if an individual board member talks to anybody, they're representing themselves and not the board.
Right.
And we make it clear to people that unless the board has voted on something and the majority has said yes to something, we don't speak for the board. That, I think, is the important thing to tell the public. It's not prohibiting us from speaking to people about it.
Right, and that's a very good point. I mean, we are, you always hear this, I'm one of 9, right? I'm one of 9. We don't make the decision. I think one of the comments in here, it talks about the collective authority of the board. We can't debate an item that's coming in front of us in advance of it, but that's a very good point. And we could have that further discussion as well.
I think, and I hear, all of the thoughts too, and I think they're actually good conversation to have. But I think legally, and because of the privacy concerns, I think probably what will end up happening, and I don't know, but if I'm looking into my binoculars, that our responses would end up being somewhat generic. In any event, we've received it, rubber stamp, we will discuss it with the board members, and if the board members, decide that it's going to be an agenda item, then it will be on the agenda. Something like that. I can't see a response that would be specific in nature, because I think that's outside of the authority that we're given,
Yeah.
even as elected officials.
And that's one of the conversations we had when Mr., I'm spacing on his name. Rich Mills was here. The attorney was giving us what we can and can't do. And again, goes back to my question to you, is why are we different? Those are the reasons, some of the reasons that we're different when it comes to those. But one other thing I want to throw out there, and again, I've had this conversation, and we've heard it from the community as well. Community members can't come every other Thursday to a Board of Education meeting for now an hour, well, almost 2 hours, or an hour, or 3 hours, or half an hour. It really doesn't matter. Life is out there, things go on. So every other Thursday is not the easiest time for people to come and sit and talk. And if it's something that's not on the agenda, wait till the end of the meeting and have a conversation with us. So one of the thoughts, and again, we could have this discussion next week or in a couple weeks as well, is can we put on the agenda, and I'm using the terminology, I don't know if it's the right terminology, listening sessions, where we as a board can sit here and have it would have to be a special meeting, a posted meeting, and we could come and we could sit and we could have those conversations on off nights, on things, and I know it's tough for the board members too, because just like the community, we have things, lives and things like that, but being able to put things out there and have an opportunity for the community to come, to talk about maybe a specific, make one meeting about this, one meeting about this, one meeting about this, and then one meeting about whatever you want to talk about, as long as we could narrow it down and it doesn't go off the rails kind of a thing. But just another concept to think about is having these special meeting, listening type of sessions where people can come and feel like they're being heard. That's what we want to make sure of, is that people feel that they're being heard. If it's a meeting like that, it's not going to be a dialogue, right? It would be a listening session, so we can listen and take in and use that information as we continue to deliberate and debate. But it's an opportunity for people to come and bring more to us, and not just once or twice a month on a Thursday evening.
And just one more thing, Mr. Chair. So I would also say that, and I'm big on this, because I'm an attorney too, but there's proper forums.
Mhm.
So typically, this is our forum for the public to come and for the rest of the public to hear and to see what the residents are saying. if I'm getting a communication that's specific to me, there's really nothing that I could or really would want to do with that outside of a public forum, because this is how we get things accomplished in the public forum. This is the appropriate venue to hear things, good or bad. We have on our agenda certain areas for the public to come forth in front of their peers, in front of us, to articulate what their issues are. And again, that's proper. That's fair. Everyone gets the same chance to air their grievances or non-grievances, to have a celebration. So I would argue, and I'm inclined to say that the personal communications as between the public and ourselves could be construed, or the optics aren't really that great, really, for what we have been elected to do. We are elected officials, and we operate in front of everyone, full
And
transparency.
I don't know, maybe I wasn't, that's the concept of these listening sessions. It's not for a one-on-one kind of a thing. It's that they would be able to come and present in a forum, similar to this, right? But on a date, maybe a different date, different time, so that people actually who cannot come on a Thursday evening have an opportunity to bring their points out.
But we have that, you know? That would be in addition to something that we're already doing.
Correct.
You know, there's an appropriate time, there's a time frame, there's a time limit, and whether or not we respond at that time, if we think that it's something that should render further conversation or discussion, then that's our job as elected members of the board to have that conversation and bring it forth to the public.
Okay. Mr. Bashevsky?
Just, not to belabor the issue, but historically, we've had a lot of situations where people will come up from a public comment perspective, let us know what's ailing them or their concern is, and here we are, you know, unable to respond. And I don't know if having a listening session is necessarily going to help a situation like that. But, you know, what I will say is, again, like having community members come to our, if you can't come to a late night formal Board of Ed meeting, I'm available. You know, again, like I tend to like to do more one-on-one discussion or group in-person discussion, because again, like the emotion behind what you're saying, it definitely plays into what you may have to present. Rather than, you know, getting emails with, you know, 15, 16 questions, and, you know, it's, again, like, what does that achieve? But again, like, I've never not made myself available to have discussion, and I think that that's probably where we should go, because ultimately, we hear about something, you know, during board communication, we bring it up, and then it winds up on the slate at some point to discuss.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right. We will move on in new business. We have a whole bunch of,
You have 11B now, don't forget.
we don't have to read the first
yeah, we'll just go through. We have a lot of policies. Policy,
Something here.
11B? No, Z.
no, that's Z.
Z, as
Yep.
in zebra.
We already had that. We already added that.
And yes, also, no, she thought it was a B instead of a Z.
Yeah, see,
So we have a bunch of first reads that are in front of us. We have policy number 1250 on visitor observation, 3250 materials and service fees, 4120 FMLA, 4121 Connecticut paid sick leave, 4145 reports of suspected abuse or neglect of adults, 4190 bloodborne pathogens, 4220 external heat illness awareness, 4315 employment and student teacher checks, 5111 admission placement age of attendance, 5121 examination grading rating, 5133 participation in athletics and other co-curricular activities, So those are all first reads for policies. If anybody has any questions, they're all in our packet, they're all on board book. Reach out to the chair, reach out to the committee, and we can get those answered, and it will be on our agenda for the next meeting. We have also a bunch of first reads in terms of curriculum and instruction. SHS Science Biochemistry, SHS Science Astronomy Unit 1 or Unit 2, SHS Agricultural Science Advanced Non-Ruminant Livestock Management, SHS Agricultural Science Advanced Ruminant Livestock Management. There's non-ruminant, okay. SHS Agricultural, Science Yukon SPS 1150 Agricultural Technology, SHS Agricultural Science ECE Turfgrass, SHS Math Technology, a Math for Technology and Innovation, the elective, a KSA elective on American Sign Language, and the KSA Science Topics in Science. So those are all, again, on the agenda, first reads for curriculum instruction. Any questions can go through the chair, and we can get those answered and have them ready for our next Board of Education meeting. There was a committee set up at our last couple meetings ago for the Leonard and Gladys Joel Scholarship. I believe it was Mrs. Aronofsky Anastasio, Mr. Brown, and I think it was you, Mr. Carson, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just asking, at this point, I think you guys have come to a conclusion on who the person is?
Yes.
Okay, we're not gonna say who the person is, but now that we know who it is, that name could be submitted to the high school to be placed in the booklet. Thank you all for doing that. I know it's not, you've done it before, it's not easy sometimes reading through those and making tough decisions when it comes to breaking it down. Next on the agenda, SHS Rooftop Photovoltaic.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Sir?
Typically, we've made a motion to accept as recommended. We
want to
just
do
don't
that?
say the person's name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would one of the board members, committee members, make a motion to accept the name as determined by the committee?
I move that we accept the we have language here?
It's right on there.
It's
yeah.
not written.
Approve the recipient recommended by the Leonard and Gladys Joel Scholarship Subcommittee.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll take it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. All right, thank you.
Agreeable bunch.
SHS rooftop photovoltaic plans for submission to Department of Agriculture.
Yep. I move the Board of
Well,
Education.
before we do that, we have a presentation that's going to be made this evening as to go along with this process. So, and I just, and clarify if I'm wrong, Mr. Romano, this project was actually part of the capital plan that started way back in 2012, right?
Sure.
And then it moved on, and as it went to referendum 2 years ago for rooftops, and then the addition of the photovoltaic, or
Yeah.
what I'll call, I guess, solar panels, right?
Exactly.
To the roof of the high school was put on back 2 years ago after the referendum. So the purpose of this meeting tonight, I believe, is pretty procedural. To get a presentation about what is going on so that we can then hear that, vote on it, and if, because it's already been approved, but approve the presentation to move forward with the bid. Is that correct?
Sure. Well, so what we're here for is we need to go before DAS and we need your approval, that we need the Board of Ed's approval for you as a chair to sign for this. So just real quick, had a referendum in 2022, and the referendum was for the roof at the high school along with the solar. So we established a town building committee. We have completed the roof. We considered second phase to now do the solar. The state considers it a separate project. It's just a formality. So we did hire some consultants that worked with us on the photovoltaic system. We have a vendor that is going to be handling that work, but we do need to get an approval from the Board of Ed for your signature. So I have Mr. Robert Klee with us, who is one of our consultants that handles the logistics, and he's going to explain it to you rather quickly.
Excellent.
Good evening, everyone. Robert Klee, Klee Sustainability Advisors, along with CSW Energy. We are your Board of Ed's consultants and your project representatives through this process. What you've had in front of you in your packet gives a brief two-page memo summarizing to the chairperson's question the status of the solar rooftop project. You are hoping to build a 600 kilowatt solar system on the roof that'll produce about 840,000 kilowatt hours of electricity in its first year of operation. And under the state incentives, which it's already scheduled to receive, it'll generate about $150,000 a year in revenue once the solar arrays are built. You went through a competitive bidding process and selected All Electric Construction and Communication to do the construction work. They have now completed their final designs for that solar array, and that's the critical step we're in. So the final designs are prepared. They're being finally reviewed by your fire marshal, your building code. All those sorts of things are happening at the town level. But the Department of Administrative Services needs to have the Board of Education, chairperson, the superintendent, and the head of that building committee all sign off on a form, which is in your packet, to transmit those final plans to DAS. DAS approves those final plans and then allows you to go to construction, and that construction will then hopefully commence this summer, and you'll hopefully be generating power before the end of the year. So I'm recognizing the hour. I will pause there, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but this is a necessary step in the DAS process because it is funded by a DAS grant.
So what's different than what we have already approved? This is just the necessity of the process to get a vote, to get a signature, to continue to move forward with what's already been approved, correct?
Absolutely. It is literally a signature on a form that enables that final presentation of the final plans to DAS, and then they sign off on that. We've already scheduled the meeting with DAS, and then hopefully when they sign off, construction can mobilize and commence.
Excellent, okay. Any questions or comments?
Yes.
Mr. Carson?
All right, so, just, and it may just be a clerical error, but on your letterhead, on your letter dated April 9th, 2026, it states in project status on December 8th, 2026, All Electric Construction and Communication was awarded the rooftop solar project at SHS through a competitive bid process.
Yes.
December 8th, 2026 has not arrived.
That is correct. You have caught a typo. I really appreciate the close read. That should have been December 8th, 2025 when they were selected.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion? Oh, Mr. Bishefsky, did you have a question?
No, well, just a reiteration, I think this particular solar array, we actually own it,
Correct.
right? So
Correct.
this is like the first one that we're kind of getting it right, so I can dig it, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting it right, yeah. Good, all right. Do we have a motion?
Yep. I move that the Board of Education authorize the Chair of the Southington Board of Education and the Superintendent of Southington Public Schools to sign Form SCGO42, Request for Review of Final Plans for Connecticut Department of Administrative Services, DAS, project number 131-0131PV, so that Southington Public Schools may submit the final plans and professional cost estimate to the Connecticut DAS Office of Grants Administration for their approval prior to commencement of construction of the rooftop solar photovoltaic project at Southington High School.
Second.
Got it, thank you.
I'm not speaking for a week.
By Mr. Bishefsky. You thought it was going to be an easy one. All right, is there any discussion?
Just a quick comment. Do you need my child's signature on this request as well?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye, aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Motion passes 8-0.
8-0.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Just agreeing on everything today, guys.
Next on the agenda is the Strong Elementary School roof plan for submission to the Department of Administrative Services.
It's almost like deja vu. So this is very similar. This last fall, the town referendum allowed us to do re-roof Thalberg, Hatton, and Strong Elementary School. We've gotten through with the state process at the same point that we're at with the photovoltaic, where we need to get the approval of everybody, including Sean's son. So it's honestly, it's exact same thing. The only difference is all electric on the photovoltaic was a design build. With the rooftop system, you have an architect. The architect has done the drawings. They're being reviewed by the town. But in order to go before the state to get the grant, which we're planning to be, I think it's next Tuesday, I need the signatures.
Okay.
May I make a motion?
Sir.
Move that the Board of Education authorize the Chair of the Southington Board of Education and the Superintendent of Southington Public Schools to sign Form SCG-042, Request for Review of Final Plans for CT Department of Administrative Services, Project Number 1310132RR, so that Southington Public Schools may submit the final plans and professional cost estimate to the CTDAS Office of Grants Administration for their approval prior to commencement of the roof replacement project at Strong Elementary School.
Second?
We have a motion and a second by Mrs. Carmody. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? A motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
8-0. I keep saying 9-0. It's automatic.
Mr. Romano, I gotta ask you. Okay, so you have our signatures, but have you coordinated to get building official, fire marshal, health official, federal official?
Okay, we're good. I think we're all
Yeah,
good here.
so I have everybody except, unfortunately, the health director is on vacation this week, so I'm sweating. I have to get hers on Monday, but
Okay.
we're
Thank
good. We have a good group of people to work with.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we
Thank
have the addition to our agenda, item 11Z. Mr. Brown, do you have a motion for us?
Move that the Board of Ed approve the expulsion number 2025-2601.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Bashevsky. Is there any discussion? All right, could you please call the roll on this?
Mr. Bachewski,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Camuso,
Yes.
Mrs. Carmody.
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Mrs. Darrenowski Anastasia,
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead,
Abstain?
Mr. Oshana.
Yes, the motion passes 7-0 with one abstention. All right, next on the agenda are public communications that do not pertain to items on the agenda. Is there anybody that would like to speak this evening?
Good evening. My name is Shema Green. I live at 67 Memorial Drive. I'm here tonight to share my continued concerns about trust and transparency surrounding the proposed school project, and more broadly, my concerns about the Board of Education. Mr. Medancy recently shared the latest enrollment projections with me. As I always do, I reviewed them carefully and noticed that a housing development was missing from the future housing data. For the record, I already looked into this development and understand that it's age restricted. However, similar communities are included in the projections, and it's still possible for children to live in those households depending on family situations. When I asked Mr. Medancy about this, he confirmed that the development was left off by mistake and that it shouldn't be a concern because it's age restricted. While that may seem like a small issue, the fact that it was missed at all is concerning. It makes me wonder, if something like this was overlooked, what else might be missing? These projections are being used to guide major decisions about the future of our elementary schools. If the information is incomplete in one area, it makes it harder to fully trust the rest. Respectfully, I do not have time to drive around the entire town of Southington to make sure all housing projects are accounted for, or check planning and zoning meeting minutes each time to see if there's anything new. I also want to speak about transparency. Since February 19th, Mr. Medancy has said multiple times this referendum needed to happen in June, including when community members asked why at public hearings. Now we're being told that November is okay. When something this significant changes without a clear reason, such as this, it naturally leads me to question what else may not be fully explained or shared. That uncertainty makes it hard to feel confident in the information coming from the Board of Education regarding other important decisions and issues that affect our students in schools. In other words, I'm really starting to have a hard time believing what any of you are saying. One step I have consistently asked for to help improve transparency between the Board of Education and the community is still not happening. It's 2026, and parents of school-age children in our town are already connected through the Parent Square app. I strongly believe the Board of Education meeting agendas should be shared through that platform as soon as they're available each month. Many families are balancing busy schedules and may not think to regularly check the district website. However, a simple notification through Parent Square would allow parents to quickly review the agenda and stay informed about what will be discussed at upcoming meetings. In my experience as a teacher in another district, our superintendent sends the agenda and live stream link to all families, faculty, and staff several days in advance of each meeting. This is a straightforward and effective way to keep the community informed. Implementing a similar practice here would be a meaningful step toward improving transparency and strengthening communication with the community. I respectfully ask that the board take steps to make that happen. I have said this at previous meetings, and I will say it again. I'm here for all students in Southington. I want what's best for every child in this town, but situations like these make it difficult to trust the information being shared and the decisions being made. I urge you to do better, not for me, but for the students who depend on all of us to be honest and clear. They're putting their trust in you. I should be able to do the same, and right now I can't. Transparency shouldn't be optional, it should be the standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Please, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Jillian Carlson. I live at 62 Old Turnpike Road. Before I start, I was hoping that I could give you guys just like a handout. Am I allowed to do that? I think Ms. Nadeau checked with you, and
Yes,
I'm not able to, or is that?
If you could hand it to Mrs. Mella, and we'll just pass them down.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. There's quite a few copies. All right, so I'm asking the board to review the district's use of legal counsel in special education matters, particularly with respect to cost oversight and procurement practices. I recognize that raising concerns like this may be perceived as overly critical or negative. However, the issues I'm raising are not subjective concerns, but issues grounded in documented data and observable district practices, and are focused on broader questions of oversight, decision-making, and fiscal responsibility. Publicly available data shows that during the 2024 to 2025 school year, the district spent over $730,000 on SPED-related legal fees, exceeding the approved budget of $125,000 by roughly 196%. This total also includes costs associated with litigation that the district did not prevail in. This pattern follows the prior school year, which had already represented the highest level of special education legal spending on record at approximately $239,000, meaning costs increased by over 50% in a single year. At a prior board meeting, I raised concerns regarding the process by which outside legal counsel is selected. Given the ongoing concerns regarding legal expenditures, I believe those concerns warrant renewed attention. To provide additional context, I reviewed special education-related legal expenditures data across multiple years, and several patterns stand out. First, there's an exponential growth pattern with costs increasing rapidly over a relatively short period of time. Second, there are repeated significant budget overruns, including multiple years where expenditures exceeded the approved budget by well over 100%. Third, the timing of these increases aligns with changes in district legal structure and leadership, raising important questions about what factors may have contributed to this shift. Finally, there's a clear lack of stabilization, with costs continuing to rise year after year rather than leveling off over time. Taken together, these patterns suggest that this is not an isolated issue, but one that warrants careful review of the district's current practices, oversight, and decision-making. Put simply, when systems are functioning effectively and concerns are addressed early, there is far less need for extensive legal involvement. The scale of these expenditures suggests that issues are escalating rather than being resolved at the appropriate level. When routine and foundational special education processes are not implemented consistently, issues that should be addressed early on can instead escalate into more complex and costly disputes. This pattern suggests a breakdown at the initial stages of problem solving, which ultimately leads to increased conflict and legal involvement. While it may be tempting to attribute increased legal costs to a single due process case, it is important to understand what that actually represents. Due process is not simply a matter of a dissatisfied parent filing a complaint. It is a formal legal proceeding in which an independent hearing officer evaluates the appropriateness of a district's proposed program and services. When a district chooses to proceed through due process and ultimately does not prevail, it indicates that the position being defended was ultimately not found to be appropriate under applicable standards. Put simply, the district committed substantial public funds to defend a position that an independent hearing officer ultimately found did not provide an appropriate program for the student. In that context, significant legal expenditures tied to unsuccessful litigation should be viewed not as an isolated event, but as a signal that warrants careful review of both decision-making and oversight. While some of these costs may be attributed to prior leadership decisions, it is important to note that similar practices continue under the current structure. For example, the use of outside legal counsel to attend meetings involving families who are not represented by legal counsel has continued. This raises concerns about whether district resources are being used in a way that promotes collaboration and resolution, or whether they are contributing to increased costs and escalation of routine matters. This also raises a broader concern about how legal services are being utilized. When legal involvement becomes a routine part of situations that could likely be resolved earlier, it is important to examine whether current practices are inadvertently contributing to increased costs and escalation. Additionally, there continue to be concerns regarding district compliance with fundamental IDEA requirements in cases involving current leadership. This suggests that the issue is not limited to past practice, but may reflect broader systemic challenges that warrant board-level oversight. Given the level of ongoing concerns, it is also important to consider whether current leadership structures and practices are resulting in meaningful changes, or whether prior patterns are continuing. When significant issues persist across leadership transitions, it raises important questions about whether meaningful changes have been made to address the underlying causes. While rising special education costs are a statewide issue, legal expenditures of this magnitude are typically associated with significantly larger districts facing significant systemic challenges. Southington is a mid-sized district, which raises concern about what is driving this level of legal spending. Given this pattern, I'm requesting that the board consider 3 points. First, what procurement process is used for special ed legal services, and whether competitive bidding or periodic review is required. This is particularly important in the context of how legal services are selected and retained over time. Second, what oversight mechanisms are in place to monitor and control legal expenditures, particularly when costs exceed budget amounts by such a significant margin year after year? Third, what steps the district is taking to ensure that foundational IDEA requirements are consistently followed so that student needs are addressed appropriately from the outset and do not escalate into avoidable disputes and legal involvement, particularly when families are unrepresented. These points go directly to fiscal responsibility, transparency, and the district's approach to supporting students with disabilities. At a minimum, these trends warrant a thorough and transparent review so that the board and the public can clearly understand what is driving these costs and whether current practices are truly serving students and the district effectively. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to speak this evening? All right, hearing none, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second by Mrs. Carmody. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.